And welcome back as we wrap up today's conspiracy theory investigation for our Down Below Adventure ongoing series. This might be the last time we deal with biodynamics directly for a while, but we're not going to deal with them. We're going to deal with various rules applications for pursuing conspiracies further. I'm Steve.
I'm Ian.
And I'm going to pass it over for him to take it away.
Conspiracies. How do I reveal? Well, at this point, you may have noticed, if you've been watching the rest of this particular part of the Adventure Design series, that you have used up all the players' successes if you're doing this in a single session. If you're not doing this in a single session, and you are spacing this out across an entire campaign, then after the big reveal comes up, you probably had a session that focused on, oh crap, this is something we have to deal with right now, and you used up a bunch of successes in going through that climactic scene that had eventually come up. But either way, dealing with the larger implications of a conspiracy is not a single session thing. It is not a single adventure thing, even in a multi-session adventure. It is not even something that you are expected to completely resolve in the course of a campaign. So, one of the system things that needs to be noted is that never will any action or sequence of actions have on the table the complete dismantling of the system that these conspiracies represent.
It's true.
This is not a world the PCs can completely change. The PCs can get themselves out from under the gun temporarily.
The PCs can lay seeds for the eventual dismantlement of a situation.
The PCs can improve things for the people they know.
But even in the real world, if you look at the fall of the Soviet Union as an example, and the making public of various military secrets, the secret police, they're still out there. They disbanded. The worst offenders, the worst visible offenders, were reprimanded, and the rest of them disappeared into the government to do what they normally do.
Let's face it, the KGB were thugs, and after the KGB was disbanded, they continued being thugs without official government sanction.
And some of them got official government sanction.
And now we've got the Vori, who are thugs without government sanction, and we've also got the FSB, who went back to being thugs with government sanction. So
even in the real world, the more things change, the more things stay the same.
In Down Below, we focus on the story aspect of this is personal level. You are not changing the world. The world is how it is. The world will eventually change, and we might at some point do a setting which is a farther future setting that has the Down Below setting in its past, which is a different set of themes. But the transition between the two is not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to be initiated directly by any specific characters.
Or any specific actions.
Even though there are pivotal things that happen, and those things might even be attributable to PC actions at some point, it's not going to happen in one person's game time, because A, that would counteract the themes, and B, that isn't very realistic. Things take a while to change. We advocate for social change in real life, but we acknowledge that it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So, what you can and should do is, even if you were running this adventure as a one-off session within a larger campaign, you should track the player's progress in seeing and dealing with various different conspiracies. And the more they deal with conspiracies, the more they should be contacted with the kind of people who see and want to do something about the corruption inherent in the systems, especially on Nuevo Paradiso. The existence of the Down Below economy creates people who want to change the situation. The faction that we have referred to as conspiracy theorists, they are sort of a not counter-government, not counter-corporate, but they are a countercultural movement that exists within the Downbelow society, especially on Nuevo Paradiso, where people get away with a lot.
So here's one last question to close things out. This is a mechanical element we really haven't touched on at all.
Okay.
We've talked about the fact that characters may not actually gain more traits over the course of an adventure. They might, for all we know, they might be stuck at their 10+1 forever, or they might gain more. But here's a question. Would potentially re-identifying either as a member of a countercultural movement such as the conspiracy theorists, or as just someone who is ingrained in conspiracy, ingrained in life-changing circumstances, be an appropriate time for people to change their traits?
Yes. So even if you don't want players to gain traits, because it actually is pretty much more interesting to... It's easier to plan for this system if people can keep the same consistent number of traits. You should let people change their traits if what is important about their character changes. So let's say they haven't used their pilot aircraft skill in many, many sessions because everything's stayed on Nuevo Paradiso and they haven't had access to one. If they want to say that they have been weight training and they want to change their trait to I'm strong, and they think that there's been a lot of times where it would have been nice to be able to force the damn door, let them do that. And if they have a major storyline thing happen where they join a particular secret society or, subgroup, and they want to change to have contacts in that group and switch out one of their other traits, definitely let them do it.
In the case of changing out traits, the pilot, who he doesn't suddenly stop being able to fly a plane. What happens is that he stops being able to use that as a success trait.
Remember that you've got the 10+1, and you remember that this guy can fly a plane.
Yep.
So if he has a plane, once per session, having the right tool for the job. But he can't use the fact that he's a pilot anymore, which means that if there's a situation when knowing about planes comes up, it's been too long since he's actually flown one. He doesn't quite remember. Can't use that trait.
Similarly, using pilots as contacts, he's been outside pilot society long enough that the guys down at the airfield don't really remember him, and they've moved on.
So digging deeper into the conspiracy is something that happens over the long term, and it sets the flavor for a campaign. So our final note, as we close out this particular adventure design, is... if you're just running this as a one-shot and you're literally not using it as a continuing campaign, that's as deep as the players will go. They will get the idea that, oh man, this rabbit hole goes deeper, but they're not going to be able to keep investigating it in the same session. Thanks for watching, and we will be back tomorrow with a new thing.